If you were online before 2005, you ran this. One tiny window. A glowing green bar. A llama that told you it whipped something. 60 million people opened it every day. Then a company you know paid $80 million for it and quietly spent 10 years killing it. You already know the shape of this story even if you have never heard the name. The little skin you downloaded to make the player look like a spaceship. The visualizer that turned your bedroom wall into a rave. The startup sound. For a while this program was how an entire generation heard music. And then it was gone. And almost nobody can tell you what happened to it. I have watched a lot of software die. Most of it deserved it. This one did not. And the reason it died is stranger than the story people usually tell, which is that some sleeker app came along and won. That is not what happened here. What happened here is that the thing was already sitting on the future. The owner could not see it, and the one man who could kept trying to burn the house down from the inside. I am going to show you 3 things. Why a 19-year-old in the Arizona desert built the most beloved piece of software of its decade. Why the richest internet company on earth bought it and then smothered it. And why, more than 20 years later, it still will not stay dead. Stay with me, because the middle of this is where it gets ugly. Start in 1997, in Sedona, Arizona. Red Rocks. Retirees. Not a place you connect with software history. A 19-year-old named Justin Frankel is sitting in his parents' house writing code. He calls his company Nullsoft. It is a joke. Microsoft was the giant, the thing that filled every screen in the world. Micro meant small. He called himself Null. Nothing. A company named after the opposite of the biggest company alive. In April, he releases the first version of a small program that plays a new kind of file. The file is called an MP3, and in 1997 almost nobody has heard of it. Music at the time lived on compact discs. The idea that a whole song could shrink into a tiny file, travel down a phone line, and play on a home computer was close to magic. Frankel and a friend named Dmitry Boldarev built the thing that made the magic playable. They named it by borrowing from a decoding library called AMP. Windows, AMP, Winamp. Within weeks, it had 3 million downloads. Within months, it was the default. If you had a computer and you had music files, you had this program, because nothing else did the job half as well. To see why that mattered, remember what music was in 1997. You bought a compact disc for $15. You played it on a stereo in the living room. The idea of carrying your whole collection around inside a computer did not exist for a normal person. Then the MP3 arrived, and a song became a file you could copy, trade, and stack by the thousand. Napster would come along in 1999 and turn that into a war between kids and the record labels. Before any of that fight started, you still needed something to play the files, and the thing everyone reached for was this one small window. Here is the part that tells you who Frankel was. He gave it away. Winamp was free. There was a small suggestion that you might mail in $10 if you liked it, an honest box on the internet, and enough people mailed the $10 that a teenager was soon pulling in serious money from a donation jar. That detail matters, because it is the opposite of everything that came later. And then there is the llama. When you open certain versions, a voice announced that Winamp really whips the llama's ass. Everyone assumed it was random nonsense. It was not. Frankel had lifted the line from an outsider Chicago musician named Wesley Willis, who used to say that anything good whipped the llama's ass, preferably with a belt. A cult catchphrase bolted onto a music player that a generation would repeat for years without ever knowing where it came from. That is the texture of this thing. Weird, personal, made by a human who thought it was funny. By 1998, this small program had become a culture. The Skins did it. Winamp let anyone reskin the player, and the little window could look like a sports car dashboard, a slab of brushed metal, a cartoon, a beer can, anything. Thousands of people made them and traded them. Your music player became a thing you decorated, like a bedroom wall or a locker. Software did not do that back then. Software was gray boxes. This was yours, and they did not make a handful of them. The Internet Archive now keeps more than 72,000 community-made Winamp skins, and a searchable museum built later holds over 100,000. Look at what that pile is. Teenagers drawing pixel buttons at 2 in the morning so that a stranger 3 time zones away could have a music player shaped like a spaceship cockpit or a rusted toolbox. Given away. No store, no approval, no cut for anybody. The largest collection of amateur interface art anyone has ever assembled grew out of one free program that shipped with a setting letting you change its face. And it was fast. It opened the instant you clicked it, on the slow machines of the time when everything else made you wait. It had a graphic equalizer with sliders you pushed around for no real reason except that it felt good. It had a playlist you built by dragging files in. It remembered where you left off. For a lot of people, this was the first piece of software that felt less like a tool and more like something they owned. Microsoft noticed. It bolted its own Windows Media Player onto every copy of Windows, pre-installed, free, impossible to avoid. And people still went and downloaded Winamp instead. Look at how rare that is. The most powerful software company on Earth gave its player away inside the operating system itself, and tens of millions of people ignored it and chose the scrappy thing made by a kid. Because it was faster, prettier, and it treated them like adults. Winamp beat Microsoft on Microsoft's own machine. Almost nothing ever did that. Then came the visualizer, a plugin called MilkDrop, written by a programmer named Ryan Geiss, turned the sound coming out of your speakers into full-screen moving art. Psychedelic tunnels, blooming color, audio reactive light shows running on a home computer in 2001. For free. For no reason other than that it looked incredible. People left it running to stare at it. Geiss had been chasing that effect since 1998, when his first visualizer wrung the motion out of hand-written assembly code, because home processors that year had nothing left to give. MilkDrop moved the work onto the graphics card instead. 12 versions shipped between November of 2001 and July of 2003. Then in 2005, the code went out under a free license, and strangers rebuilt it, ported it, and kept it running on machines nobody had invented when it was written. A plugin outliving the program it was written for. Hold on to that, because it happens again at the end of this story, on a scale that is hard to believe. And then, the part almost everyone forgets. Nullsoft built Shoutcast, a system that let any person on Earth run their own internet radio station out of their bedroom. Not a big company. You, a kid with a music collection, could broadcast to the world, and other Winamp users could tune in. 60 million people were running this software at its peak, and a chunk of them were streaming audio to each other over the internet years before the word streaming meant anything to anyone. Sit with that. A free player, a creative community, a personal radio network, and an audience of 60 million. In 2001, that is not a media player. That is the blueprint for the entire music internet that came after. They had the users, the streaming pipes, and the culture, all at once, and they had it first. That is what turned the next part into a tragedy instead of a footnote. In the middle of 1999, at the peak of the dot-com boom, America Online came shopping. AOL was the biggest name on the internet. The dial-up sound. The "You have got mail." The discs in every mailbox in the country. AOL wanted to own digital music, and it went on a buying spree that added up to around $400 million. Part of that money bought a streaming company called Spinner. The other part bought Nullsoft. The price on Nullsoft was around $80 million in AOL stock. Some tellings put it closer to 100 million. Either way, a company a teenager had started in his parents' house 2 years earlier was now worth the kind of money that buys a skyscraper, and Justin Frankel, at 20 years old, was suddenly rich, and suddenly an employee of the largest internet corporation on the planet. Winamp had 15 million users the day the deal closed, and it was still climbing. On paper, this is the happy ending. The scrappy kid sells to the giant, everyone wins. That is the version you already know, and it is where most tellings of this story stop. It is exactly where the real story starts. Because the giant had no idea what it had bought, and the kid had no intention of behaving. For a couple of years, the arrangement almost worked. AOL mostly left the San Francisco office alone, and Nullsoft kept the feel of a garage band that happened to have a corporate parent. One writer later called it the last maverick tech company, a small pocket of people who still built strange things for the joy of it, while the industry around them turned into meetings and lawyers. That freedom is exactly what produced the fireworks that came next. Here is what you were never told about why Winamp died. It was not one thing killing it from the outside. For a long stretch, it was the inside eating itself. Frankel did not want to be an AOL employee. He wanted to build whatever he found interesting. And what he found interesting was almost always the exact thing his new corporate owner had the most reason to fear. In March of 2000, using Nullsoft's own web servers, without telling AOL, Frankel and a colleague named Tom Pepper posted a program called Gnutella. Gnutella let people share any file with anyone, with no company in the middle and no server to shut down. It was Napster, with no head to cut off. This was the exact moment the music industry was declaring war on file sharing, and AOL was in the middle of merging with Time Warner, one of the largest music companies in the world. One of AOL's own employees had handed the internet a tool to trade music freely. AOL pulled it within a day. It was already loose. You cannot pull something back off the internet. Sit with the size of that irony. AOL had just paid to merge with Time Warner, a company whose whole business was selling recorded music. And the star programmer of the little studio AOL had used AOL's own servers to release the most effective music piracy engine the world had seen. It is hard to design a worse fit between an owner and an employee. They wanted him to build a nice, safe jukebox. He wanted to pull the record industry apart at the seams. And now, they were stuck with each other. And the thing he posted for one single day never went away. Other programmers picked the design up and built their own players on top of it. LimeWire and BearShare among them, and if you were pulling songs off the internet in 2003, you were probably standing on his one day of insubordination, without knowing it. By the middle of 2005, it carried around 1.8 million machines at once. By late 2007, it was the most used file-sharing network on the internet. AOL scrubbed it off its servers inside 24 hours, and it ran for another decade anyway, on nobody's payroll. He did it again. In 2003, he released a program called Waste, a private encrypted network for small groups to share files in secret. AOL killed that one too. Frankel threatened to quit, then stayed only long enough to finish one more version of Winamp. Picture what that is. The most talented person in the building keeps building things that terrify the people who sign his checks. He is not lazy, and he is not burned out. He is at war with his own employer, and the employer's answer to a genius who will not obey is to strip his projects away one at a time. Nobody in that arrangement is going to lovingly grow a music player into the future. That marriage was poisoned from the first week. While that fight went on, the product rotted. In 2002, Nullsoft shipped a full rewrite called Winamp 3. It was slower, heavier, and it broke the things you loved. Users hated it so much that the company had to retreat and stitch the old version and the new version back together into something they called Winamp 5. The joke inside the company was that 2 + 3 = 5. That is a fun joke. It is also the sound of a product that has lost the plot, spending its energy undoing its own mistakes instead of chasing what came next. And look at what came next while they were distracted. In 2001, Apple released the iPod. Then, iTunes. A clean store where you bought a song with one click and it landed on a device in your pocket. Winamp had the audience, the radio network, and the streaming know-how to have built that store years earlier. It had Shoutcast. It had 60 million people already listening to audio over the internet. It had everything except an owner who could see what it was holding. AOL did not build the store. AOL was busy imploding. The Time Warner merger became one of the worst deals in business history, and as AOL bled, the little music division in San Francisco was an afterthought. In December of 2003, AOL shut Nullsoft's San Francisco office and laid off around 450 people. In January of 2004, Justin Frankel wrote on his blog that he was done, and he walked. In November of 2004, AOL quietly shut Nullsoft down for good. This is the real death, and notice what did not cause it. Spotify did not exist yet. The thing that killed Winamp was not a better competitor. It was an owner that bought the future for $80 million, could not see what it was holding, drove out the one person who could, and let it sit on a shelf while the real future got built by somebody else. Winamp did not lose a race. It was left in a drawer. That, to me, is the saddest way for anything good to die. Not beaten. Forgotten by the people who were supposed to protect it. Justin Frankel, for what it is worth, landed fine. In 2004, he started a small company called Kakos, and in December of 2005, he put out the first preview of a recording program called Reaper. It arrived the same way his first program had. Tiny download, no salesman, no launch event. A hobbyist license costs $60, while the studio packages it competes against ask $300 and up, and it still gets updated by a team small enough to fit around one table. That price tells you which of his two careers he actually learned from. Working musicians swear by it. He got his freedom back, quietly, on his own terms, with no giant standing over his shoulder. The program he made famous never would. You would think that is the end. A great program, a bad owner, lights out. That is where the neglect closes and the strange part opens, because this thing refused to go quiet. For years, Winamp limped on under AOL, barely updated, still quietly loved by a stubborn crowd who never found anything they liked as much. Then in November of 2013, AOL announced it would shut Winamp down completely on December 20th. The internet reacted like an old friend had been handed a date of death. People who had not opened it in a decade wrote goodbye letters to a music player. Music magazines ran obituaries. TechCrunch filed its story under a headline about 15 years of whipping the llama's ass, which is what a tech publication does when it has decided a joke belongs in the record. Billboard printed a farewell to a piece of software, the way it would for a musician. For one strange week in 2013, a program most of the world had stopped using became a shared memory that millions of people mourned at the same moment. That is not how anyone reacts to a media player. That is how you react to a piece of your own youth being switched off. And the noise was loud enough that the shutdown did not fully happen. At the last moment, the property was sold instead, in 2014, to a Belgian company called Radionomy, reportedly for somewhere between $5 and $10 million. Remember, it cost AOL around $80 million. That is the resale value of 15 years of neglect. Then it got stranger. In 2018, a beta version leaked onto file-sharing sites before it was ready, forcing the new owners to rush out an official release and promise a big comeback. The comeback kept not arriving. A version in 2022. A rebrand of the parent company to Llama Group, named after the same llama Frankel had joked about 25 years earlier. A relaunch in 2023 as a streaming service and an artist platform. Which is almost funny, because that is the thing they already were in 2001 and let slip through their fingers. And then 2024 brought the final insult. The owners announced they would release Winamp's source code to the world, and developers who still loved it lit up. Then, they read the license. It was called the Winamp Collaborative License, and buried in it was a line saying no forking. You could look at the code. You could even fix the code. What you could not do was keep your own version of it, and anything you improved had to go back to the company for the company to sell. Developers pointed out that a rule against forking on GitHub is a rule against the button the entire site is built around. The company gave in and allowed it, and the code was copied more than 2,600 times in 3 weeks. Then reporters started actually reading the files. Sitting inside the release was server software the company had already sold to somebody else, along with pieces belonging to Intel and to Microsoft. In October, the whole thing came down, and the repository was deleted. A program built by a teenager who gave his work away for free, now held by owners who could not even give it away correctly. Which brings back the thing I asked you to hold on to at the visualizer. While the owners kept failing to relaunch it, somebody else brought it back without asking permission. In October of 2014, a programmer named Jordan Eldridge started rebuilding Winamp inside a web browser. Out of nothing but the plain languages a web page is made from. It took him 3 years of nights. What came out of it opens in a tab, looks exactly like the player sitting in your memory, reads the original skin files people drew in 1999, and gives you back the equalizer sliders that never did much and always felt good. Somebody else rebuilt MilkDrop to run alongside it. The visualizer came back too, on hardware that did not exist when Geis wrote it. Then, Eldridge went further. He went hunting for the skins on dying file servers and forum archives, hauled tens of thousands of them into the Internet Archive so they would stop disappearing, and built the museum that now scrolls through more than 100,000 of them, any one of which you can click and watch wake up. Put the two halves of 2025 side by side. A Belgian holding company owns the name, reported around €1 million of revenue across the first half of that year, and in October formally renamed itself after the program, because the program is the only thing in the building anybody outside recognizes. And one unpaid programmer keeps the actual player alive, free, running in a browser tab, on exactly the terms a 19-year-old released it on in his parents' house. That is not a company outliving its founder. That is a founder's idea outliving 3 sets of owners who never understood what they were holding. Here is where it lands. Winamp was not killed by Spotify, or by the iPod, or by Time. Winamp was killed by being loved by its users and owned by a company that only ever saw a line on a spreadsheet. It had the audience of a streaming giant, the technology of a radio network, and the loyalty of a generation, and all 3 were wasted by people who bought the future and filed it under miscellaneous. I have a soft spot for this one, and I will tell you why. Most dead software is dead because it was bad. Winamp was dead because it was good and unlucky, born in the right decade to the right kid, and sold to the wrong adult. Every time you open a music app today and see a visualizer, a playlist, an internet station, a window you can reskin, you are looking at ideas this little program had first, and had for free in a window the size of a business card, with a llama in it. It still runs, if you go looking. A ghost of the thing that taught the internet how to listen. If you ever ran it, you already have that startup sound in your head right now. I have got another one of these. A company that everyone used and nobody protected. And it went down for a reason that will make you angrier than this one did. It is on the screen now. Go find out who filed the future under miscellaneous next.